Alright, so this is the solution to task 1, the calculator task. So we are going to start with our new Python file. We have 3 inputs that we need. The first input is number 1. So we're going to declare it number 1 equals input, enter the first number. And that will input number 1 and save it to the variable number 1. We do the same thing for number 2. So number 2 equals input, enter the first number. Second number, my bad. And finally, we have one more input, and it's the operation input. So operation equals input, enter the operation. And we have our 3 inputs set up there. So those will save to those variables. Now, you'll notice number 1 and number 2 are inputting strings right now because that's the default input for the input function that we've used. So we need to convert them to numbers so that we can work with them later on. So what we'll do is we'll just put in front of it float, which, as you'll recall, float is a floating point or decimal number, and that effectively just converts the input into a workable format. We'll do the same for number 2. So we just put float and put brackets around it, and that converts them both. Now we need to actually handle the operations. So let's start with saying that they input plus. So if operation is equal to plus, then we print, because the task says we want to print out the output, so we print number 1 plus number 2. Next, if it's equal to minus, so we're going to say elif, which is else if operation is equal to minus, print number 1 minus number 2. So then after that we're going to do times, so elif operation is equal to times, print number 1 times number 2. I'm sure you're getting the idea by now. We're going to do the exact same thing for if it's equal to divide, which is a slash symbol, and we're going to type in print number 1 divided by number 2, no spaces. And then finally, the last part of the task, we need to handle any invalid inputs. So the way we're going to do that is simply else. In other words, if there's any other situation than the operation being inputted as plus, minus, times, or divide, then we just print something along the lines of invalid operation. End quote. And there you have it. That is simply how you can calculate or rather code the calculator. Now the next step is we need to test it. So let's hit F5, and it wants me to save it, so just press yes and enter the first number. Let's say it's 3. Enter the second number. Let's say it's 2, and plus. 3 plus 2 is 5. That works. Brilliant. So now let's try it with minus. 3, 2, 21 still works. Minus 18, and that is correct. Brilliant. Now let's do it with times. So 3 times 2 is 6, and that works. And finally with divide, and 3 divided by 2 is 1.5, so let's try this. 3 divided by 2 is 1.5. And of course, let's test the invalid inputs. So I just hit F5 one more time, and I put 3, 2, and like F, for example, invalid operation, and it works perfectly. So that is how you complete task 1.